or you would be provided with is 20 minutes. So you can't really exceed the time. And again, the task 2 remains the same as I've already told you. It's very simple. It's going to be an essay, and you will have to write an essay in about 250 words, and the minute that will be provided to you would be again 40 minutes, not more. So today we are going to cover up the writing task 1. And in the writing task 1, again, depending upon which mode you're going for, if you're going for IELTS academic, then you will have the pie charts, which is again a part of the report writing. And if you are going for general IELTS, then you will have task 1 in the form of a letter. So either it can be a formal letter or an informal letter or a semi-formal letter. Depending upon the nature of the letter, you will have to write accordingly. Okay, so let's begin. Okay. So specifically, I also want to clear out one thing, that you will have multiple kinds of charts. One of them is the pie chart. So you can get either a pie chart or a bar graph or a line graph or flow chart or map. It's like that. So either like it's going to be anything, but it's just going to be one chart. So by one chart, what I mean is it's going to be either a pie chart or a bar chart or a line graph, or sometimes it's going to be a combination of two charts where you will have to draw conclusions or you will have to draw similarities. I hope it is clear. Again, it's going to be in the task 1 of the writing section. If you go for academic only, then you will get a report writing to write. And report writing is basically a pictorial representation of a graph would be provided to you. You just have to understand it in a bird's eye view, and then you will have to write the details. So when we talk about a pie chart, you will be given either one pie chart, or I hope you know what is a pie chart. It's like a circular chart, which is then it is like cut into multiple pieces, if I have to describe it like that. And then there's like a comparison of expenditure, or if not expenditure, then it could be a comparison of consumption. So you basically have to compare the data and write accordingly. So now when we talk about the pie chart, you will be provided with one or sometimes two pie charts, and there will have specific topics. So it could be like the expenditure of a particular person on miscellaneous items, or it could be the consumption of a person on food and water and all of that. So your task would be to summarize the information presented to you in the graph, and also you will be required to highlight the main trends or the patterns of the pie chart. Plus, you will have to you will be required to present a clear and concise demonstration of the data. Okay, now there are just 5 steps that are involved when we talk about writing about a chart. The first is to analyze the task, see what do they basically want from you, what kind of data it is. Then, of course, every report writing will follow a set pattern, and the pattern includes the inclusion of an introduction. In the introduction, you're just going to paraphrase the question. Then after the introduction, you do not start with the body paragraph, rather you start with the overview. Overview is very akin to conclusion in the essay, but the only difference is that it comes right after the introduction in the report writing, whereas the conclusion comes at the very last stage after the body paragraph 2. So here the major difference is introduction, and then you will write the overview. Overview is again just an analysis of what are the main features of the graph. Then you will have to write the body paragraph 1. Here you can, of course, if there's going to be a chart, there's going to be different items that would be divided in it. So you are, it's your prerogative to use any kind of comparison. Like you can combine the data in terms of the highest and the lowest. You can combine the data in terms of the highest expenditure versus the lowest expenditure. If it is a line graph, you can combine the data in terms of where the line graph soared pretty high and then where did it diminish. So depending upon how the data is, you will have to divide the items, and then you will have to divide it eventually into body paragraphs. So the first body, let's say if there are 6 items, so the first body paragraph is going to have 3 items, and the next body paragraph will have the rest 3 items. And then you do not have to write any conclusion because you've already written the overview, which is a summary of whatever you have seen in the graph. And then once you've written the introduction, the body paragraph 1, body paragraph 2, overview, then you just need to check your report, and you just need to make sure that you have written the connectors well. You have written the introduction has its fair share of paraphrasing. So these are the ways in which you basically write a pie chart. Again, you will not just get a pie chart, you can get any of the graphs, so you have to be familiar with each kind. And now ideally, again, the report writing should have 4 paragraphs. Introduction, right after the introduction, you need to have an overview. Then the first main feature, which will contain a combination of the highs, and then you will have the paragraph 4, which will contain the second main features, that would be the lows of the graph. Okay, I hope it is clear. Any questions or any doubts? Okay, I think, again, if you are silent, then I'm assuming you don't have any questions, so let's proceed further. All right. Now, the graph in IELTS is basically, it should not be, when you write, it should not be very difficult to really interpret. And basically, the questions are there to test you on the way you use your language skills and not only your mathematics ability. Remember, it's an English proficiency test, not a mathematical test where you have to actually draw very precise inferences as per the numbers, but you also have to see whether you are using the correct information, whether you are using the correct language, whether the graph that has been provided to you is appropriately explained. So these are the things that you have to keep in mind. And remember that if it is a pie chart, it will always either show percentages or it will show proportions, right? And what you need to do is you need to present the data in such a manner that with a glimpse, it becomes easier for the examiner to really comprehend what you were trying to write. Okay. And what you need to do is just look for the main features, because that is what is going to be the content of your overview. Overview is devoid of any numbers, it is devoid of any graphs. What I'm trying to implement is, when you write the overview, you will not write overall. It can be clearly seen that the highest consumption was on miscellaneous activities, which mounted up to 40%. No graph data to be included in the graph, in the overview. Rather, you can just say the graph, it is very evident that the highest expenditure was on food and miscellaneous activities respectively. But you do not have to share any numbers. Okay, all the numbers, all the digits are going to be the part and parcel of your body paragraphs, and nowhere else will you include any digits. Okay. Now, because you have all the data given right in front of you, people consider, and even I consider, report writing to be one of the easiest, because you just have to interpret the data and write it as per your own words. Okay. Now, when we talk about what to include in the overview, remember that overview is basically a bird's eye view of what is there in the graph. So any significant data in terms of, let's say, units of measurement, what are the periods, for example, between 1930 and 1938, the graph represents data from of two countries in two different years, 1918 and 1915. So you have to be very specific in terms of if there is any numbers included in terms of dates or periods, then what you have learned from the title, and if there is any labels. For example, they sometimes say that the unit of measurement is in euros, or there are 5 consumer goods, namely this. So there are labels. This also you need to include in the overview of the graph as well. And if of course, as I've already told you, the overview contains either the highest similarities or the lowest possible differences, or where the graph was at its peak, where was the graph as its where was the graph at its zenith, where was it at its zilch. So all of this needs to be included. And also what is there that you can also include in the overview is basically if there was any similarities or if there was no trend of change at all. So these are the key points that you need to include in the overview. And then once you start writing the body paragraph, you have to divide the items accordingly. Like if there's 6, 3, 3, if there's 7, 4, 3, whatever, the division is all up to you. But make sure you're just writing all the one side, for example, all the highs in one point and then all the lows in the next paragraph. Okay, so I hope it is clear. Any doubts or any questions you can ask? All right. Then the question is how to describe pie chart in IELTS writing task 1 precisely. So let's take a look. Here there's a question. It says the pie chart below shows the main reasons why agricultural land becomes less productive. The table shows how these causes affected 3 regions of the world during the 1990s. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Now, as I already told you that in the introduction, you do not need to include any other information, just include the paraphrasing. So here is a sample of the question that you might get. See, this is a pie chart only, but you just don't have one pie chart, you have a comparison of 2. So always see what is there in the graph. So it has already been told you that this is a comparison of 2 things, and this is 2 years that have been compared, 1980 to 1990. This means that it is a gap of a decade, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 elements that you need to discuss. So while looking at the graph, always see what are the data that you have in hand. See what was the highest source of energy in the US. Like over here in the 1980s, it was natural gas, and even in 1990 it remained to be natural gas, and it's slightly diminished. Then see what were the highest, what were the lows, what did not change at all. Hydroelectric power did not change, it did not really undergo any kind of changes, good, bad, nothing. So these are the things that you can write it on the sheet of the paper, and then when you start writing the report, it's going to be easier for you because you will have all the data in hand. Okay, now let's see a sample. So remember that introduction, in the introduction, you need to paraphrase the question. Paraphrasing is something which is clearly adored by the IELTS. So the more you paraphrase and the more articulate you are in terms of paraphrasing, the higher band scores you get. Remember, you cannot copy the exact statements. Neither can you change the meaning of the statement while paraphrasing. So make sure that even if you're using your own particular language, you are not hampering the exact meaning of the question. So even if there is paraphrasing, there should not be any change in the actual meaning of the question. Okay. Now here, if you look at the question side, the 2 graphs shows the main sources of energy in the US in 1980 and in 1990. Now, even if the question says 2 graphs, you clearly know that it was a pie chart. So instead of writing the graph, you can definitely write the pie charts because you know the kind of graph it is. Then instead of saying shows, you can say illustrates, compares, gives information, represents, draws comparison between main sources of energy. How can you change it? You can even change it the primary sources of energy. Energy cannot really be changed into anything, so it is better for you to keep it like that. There are certain terms that cannot be changed, and it is perfectly fine if you use them in the writing section. It's completely fine. And then the question was in the US in 1980 and in 1990. So you can write different sources in 2 different years, i.e. 1980 to 1990. Okay. So now if you want, you can even include any extra information. You can write it, the unit of measurement was in percentage and the number of factors was 5. So this can be included in the overview also, but otherwise if you want to include it in the introduction, that's completely fine as well. So here, if you look at the paraphrased version, it says the 2 pie charts illustrate the changes in the energy production from 5 different sources. If the sources are till 5, you can definitely mention it in the introduction. If it is more than 5, do not write everything. Let's say there's a comparison of 8-9 items. Of course, you will not write it in the introduction. You can just write it's a comparison between 8 items. For the US in 2 different years, 1980 and 1990, and the data is calibrated in percentage. Okay. So this is how you basically paraphrase the information, and paraphrasing is something which is quintessential. You cannot do without it. You cannot say I'm not going to use paraphrasing. If you do, of course, you will not really surpass the average band scores. So if you are aiming for a higher band score, consider it as paramount to include a lot of paraphrasing, but it has to be contextual. Okay, now once you have introduced the, once you have written the introduction, what needs to be included next is the overview. Overview in simple manner is basically the summary before you write anything. So summary basically includes the highest keynotes in any kind of data. So here it would be the main source of energy. What was the what particular factor produced the least amount of energy? Which particular factor produced the highest energy? Was there any or no change at all? All of this, that if you can see, there's this, these are the highlights of the graph. You need to include it in the overview, but remember, you cannot use any numbers in the overall. So you will write overall, oil constituted the main source of energy production in both the years, while hydroelectric power produced the least energy. There was a slight decrease in the production of oil and natural gas, whereas an increase can be seen in the figures for coal and nuclear power. Now remember, the language has to be formal, and you do not really have to use broken English. It should all be in sync, because coherence and cohesion is taken into consideration when you will be marked. So make sure you're not using broken language, rather your sentences make perfect sense. So overall, again, let me reiterate, overall needs to include all the key features of your graph, and then begins your body paragraph. So the first body paragraph will discuss, let's say, the highs. Okay, what were the highest percentages? Okay, so look at the graph. If there are like 2 elements that were highest, and then if there are 3 elements that were highest, like it increased over time. 1980 May it was less, and 1990 May it increased. So you can include it in a particular paragraph. For example, look over here, examining the data in the year 1980. Oil was the predominant source of energy, accounting for 42 of the total production. However, by 1990, the figure had declined to 33%. Hydroelectric power, on the other hand, remained the least significant source throughout this period, consistently contributing 5% to the overall energy production. Further, again, this is a linker, a connector that you use. Natural gas, which was the second largest source of energy in the 1980, produced a quarter. Yes, the words like half, quarter, 1/4 needs to be included in the graph, because these are graph related vocabulary. So of the total energy in the 1990, representing a slight decrease of 1%. In contrast, again, this is another linker that you use, respectively, in contrast, similarly, furthermore, moreover. These are the conjunctions that you need to include. Can anyone tell me what is the difference between furthermore and moreover? Are these two very similar conjunctions, or do they have any other meaning? Any idea what is furthermore and what is moreover? Any idea? No idea? I would be really appreciative if you become more active in the chat, because otherwise I don't know whether you know it or not. Okay, anyways, let me just tell you the difference. Furthermore is when you are adding more point on the same information. Like when we say having said that, and then you include a new point, that comes under moreover. Moreover is when you add another information which you consider equally important. So furthermore is an extension of an idea. However, moreover is when you are digressing from the main point and you are including another point that holds the same kind of significance. Okay, so this is the difference between the two connectors. So when you use them, make sure that you understand the context and then you are using them appropriately. Then comes the fourth. Again, this is basically how you can culminate everything, and you can write about the graph. In the beginning, you will write the paraphrasing, that is, you will just repeat the question in your own words. Then comes the overall. In the overall, you are going to include only the main trends. It could be the highest trend, the lowest trend, something that did not change at all. That all needs to be included in the overall. Then you will have 2 body paragraphs. The first body paragraph, you can you can culminate the graph that, you know, this was less and then it increased, this was less and then it increased, this was something that remained constant. In the second body paragraph, again, this you can include that this was highest, then it reduced. So however you want to culminate the data, you are free to do it, but make sure all the points are covered from the graph in your body paragraph. Okay, now coming to the next question, how to compare the given data in the pie chart. When you are looking for the comparisons, always see what was or what is the difference in terms of the numbers. Did they increase or did they decrease? Also see if there is any significant relationship, is there any significant contrast that you can draw from the data. You can always use certain words like the comparative forms or the superlatives. So for example, the graph was at its lowest, so that is the superlative form. The graph increased over time. So increased is it growed, like it sort of soared over time. As compared to the year 1999, the production of water actually decreased over time, or it dwindled over time, or it reached beneath the the initial factual years. So basically what I'm trying to say is when you are making comparisons, make sure that you're using the superlatives or you're using the comparatives, and you make sure that you are using the conjunctions as well, as I showed you already. Whereas, while, in contrast, moreover, furthermore, respectively, these are the conjunctions that are specific to the report writing, so you have to use them accordingly. Then again, if not the conjunctions, you can even use the linking words. Although these two are synonyms for each other, you can either say conjunctions or you can say linking words, but the implication remains constant. It remains unaffected. So make sure that you are using these conjunctions or linking words appropriately, and use words like it doubled, it skyrocketed, it almost reached the half of it, it reached 1/4. So you need to know the data pretty clearly. That's when you will be able to use them appropriately. So these are certain things that you have to remember. Then how can we actually approach the IELTS model pie chart to get a high score? This is the way. Always first understand the chart. See if there is any title, if there is any labels, any unit of measurement, any specific details that sort of catches your eye. Then you need to also see the slices in the graph. What are the slices? Basically where the graph is, I don't know what exact term to use. It basically is bifurcated into small groups. So you need to understand the groups pretty clearly. If there are 5 consumption goods, what were they? If there are 7 goods, what were they? So you should be very articulate in your mind about it. And then the next is identify the key information, because you need to include an overall, and the overall consists of nothing but the main trends. So make sure you know the main trends, where they were, and if there was anything that did not change. Again, that's a very striking feature, and that's why it needs to be included in the overview. Then plan your overview. What are you going to include? How are you going to make it very concise is something that you need to plan, and you can always do that without including. You can actually, you need to, and you must do it in such a way that it does not include any numbers. If you might have observed in the last pie chart that I showed you, there was no digits in the overview. Rather, it was just factual. It was just the information, right? The next is use appropriate language. Appropriate language means when you need to begin the chart, you will write firstly. When you need to use a connector, you will write accordingly. And then make sure that if there is any data, you are using the language that is specifically made for data, like significant, monumental, gigantic change, some marginal change, or you can say it hit a plateau. There was no to slight to no variation. It followed a significant increase. It diminished significantly. So these are the words that you need to use in terms of the graph. And then use a structured approach. That means that every graph will follow a structure. That means it needs to have an introduction, then it needs to have body 1, then body 2. Sorry, introduction, overview, body 1 and body 2. You do not have to add any more information than that, because it's again 150 to 170 words that you need to include, and you need to complete it by 20 minutes. So make sure that you are not writing more than what is required, and also you're not wasting a lot of time. The next is coming to the informal letters. Now, informal letters are going to be part for those people who are going to go for IELTS General. You will get an informal letter if you, or if you're not going to get any kind of letter if you're going for academic. So task 1 for academic student would be report writing. However, task 1 for general students would be letter writing. So today we are going to discuss the format for an informal letter. Let's go. So an informal letter is a letter which is written to your family, relatives, your people who share a very close bond with you. They are almost like a family to you. That's why we use informal. And as you can guess from the word informal, the vocabulary also needs to be informal. Now, who do we write informal letters to? We address them to our family, our friends, our close relatives. And this is basically a conversational style letter. That means you would either talk about something from the past, or you're going to apologize something that happened in the past. So basically there should be a room of connectivity in the informal letter. It should not feel very straight to the point. Okay. The next is it can include contractions like can't, like you don't really have to use cannot, and you can use a lot of exclamation marks in the informal letters, but in the formal letters, since the vocabulary and the language and the tonality is very, very straight, direct to the point, you cannot use a lot of contractions. Actually, you cannot use any contractions in the formal letter, and you cannot use a lot of, like, a bunch of exclamation marks either. Okay. Now coming to the basic structure, this structure will not change. Okay, so you will always start the letter by dear, and then you will write down the name of the person: dear Harpinder, dear Hashmat, dear Asra, okay, dear Abhishek. So anything but only the first name. You will, of course, you will not write the full name of your friend, right? You do not address them as, let's say, Harpinder Kaur. If she's your friend, you will definitely not do that. But yes, if it is a formal letter, then you would just say Miss Kaur or Mrs. Kaur, right? Depending upon the marital status. Now, because you know the person, you will not include the surname, only the first name. Then after that, every question will have 3 to 4 bullet points. You need to address those bullet points as they are sequentially. And then after that, what you need to do is you need to write a sign off. So it's a very simple method. Make sure that you follow this particular format. If you write anything apart from this, you will not get the desired band score, to keep it very simple. Now, every letter will start with a greeting. For example, you will, if it is an informal letter, you will start with dear, and then you will start with a very informal greeting. It's been a long time since I last wrote to you. You know, I've been really wanting to write to you, but I did not find the time, because it has to be an informal, like here. I hope this letter finds you well is not really an informal tone. You can use, you can just say, how have you been? Or it's been a really a long time when I last wrote to you. So that it shows that there's some kind of connectivity with the point of contact. The next is the purpose of the letter. The purpose of the letter is basically the body paragraphs and the bullet points that there are going to be in the question. Following the sequence of the bullet points, you need to address them accordingly. If there are 3 bullet points, you need to have 3 separate paragraphs. If there are 4 bullet points, you need to have 4 bullet paragraphs, and vice versa. Like if there are 5, there's never going to be 5, actually, just 3 to 4, and so on and so forth. You need to address them. Then once you have written, dear Hashmat, it's been a while, I last wrote to you, I hope that auntie is doing well, and then you write the purpose of the letter. You have to clearly state the reason why are you writing this letter. So you can just say, I'm writing to let you know about my promotion. I'm writing to let you know that the trip that I was planning for so long is finally happening. Or you can just tell me, or you can just say, I really want to let you know that I'm going to come to your city. Whatever is the question, you need to answer it, but make sure that it comes across as a very informal tone. Like, we've been discussing about this, and now I want to let you know that this is finally happening. Okay. Then comes the main content. The main content of your letter would be the bullet points that you need to cover, and it has to be in a very conversational style that needs to include data. For example, um, like if you look over here, I recently went to a fantastic new restaurant and I thought you'd love it. There is a contractor. You would, it has been written as you'd, and then the informal language that has been used is fantastic. They did not use any formal language, like they did not say it was an extremely good restaurant, but rather the use of the word fantastic that we use for informal language. And then once you've addressed the bullet points, then comes to the closing remarks. Closing remark is basically what do you anticipate from the letter. So you can say, can't wait to catch up with you, can't wait to see you soon, already missing you, come home soon. Whatever is the expression you need of the letter, you need to write the closing remark accordingly. But the closing remark is basically what you expect from the letter, or what you expect from the receiver of the letter. Then you write the sign off. Sign off is basically how do I say? Sign off is basically an informal way to write your name. So you, if it is a formal letter, you write yours faithfully. If it is an informal letter, you are free to use anything. Lots of love, best wishes, warm regards, even love, like basically very informal. And then you don't really have to write your full name, because again, it's your best friend, so she would or he would know your full name. You don't really have to tell her or him. Just say, just write down your first name, and no XYZ, no 123. That has to be a real name. Okay. So this is how you write the letter. Now, let us look at a dummy question. It says, an overseas friend wants to visit your country on a holiday. Write a letter to your friend. In your letter, see, there are 3 bullet points. Recommend the best time of the year to visit and why. Describe the types of accommodation your friends could choose. Say that, or say what you'd like to show to your friend in your country. And these are the 3 bullet points. That means this letter needs to have 3 paragraphs. You need to write at least 150 words, not less, and you can go up to 170 words, not more. And it will be clearly given in the question that you need not write any addresses, and you need to commence your letter as follows. That means with dear, and remember only the first name. So here is an adaptation of a letter. It says, Dear Sarah, I hope this letter finds you well and I'm excited about your upcoming trip. See, there is, okay. See, there is an inclusion of an exclamation mark. Again, it shows that it is an informal letter. I am thrilled to hear you're planning to visit my country and would love to offer some recommendations to make your stay unforgettable. This is the purpose of the letter as told to you in the question. Then comes the first bullet point. Spring from March to May is the best time to come. And the weather is mild and pleasant with blooming flowers creating a beautiful landscape. It's also less crowded than summer or than usual, allowing for a more relaxed experience. Also, many local festivals occur during this time, giving you a chance to experience our culture. So the first question was, when is the best time to come? So she told you it's from spring to May. And then for accommodation, you have several options. There are luxurious hotels in the city center with great amenities and views. Alternatively, you could stay in a charming bed and breakfast or boutique guest house for a more local feel. For a budget-friendly choice, numerous hostels and budget hotels offer comfort at a reasonable price. Now, she has given you a plethora of options in terms of your stay, where you can stay. That was the second bullet point. The third one is, I can't wait to show you around. Again, an exclamation mark, which shows it's an informal letter. We could explore the historical old town, visit local markets, and enjoy a day trip to the countryside for some scenic hiking and a picnic. Let me know if you need any more information. Looking forward to seeing you. Do you think this is the correct way to end the letter? Let me know if you need any more recommendation or information. Looking forward to seeing you. Do you think it's correct, or there could be any better way to end this letter? Anything that you think should be a replacement? Okay. I'm going to give you, like, I don't know if you're going to tell me or not. I'm going to give you some time to think about it. And if you want to write, you can write in the chat box as well. Okay. So let me tell you, you will not write, let me know if you need any more information, and looking forward to seeing you, because it's a very formal way to address. So you can, in the sign off, you can just write, can't wait to have you here. I'm already counting the days. I'm really excited to meet you finally. So these are ways in which, again, you imply that it's an informal letter and you already know the person. So make sure that you're not making such kind of mistakes, because even if there is an exclamation mark here, looking forward to seeing you, it is very formal in its tone. Then best wishes is completely fine, and Alex is your first name. You can even write your own name, it does not matter. But do not write XYZ or 123. Okay? Any doubts so far? Anything that you did not fathom? Any questions? Any doubts? Is everything clear? Okay, I assume it's all clear. Just give me a second. All right, thank you, Hashmat. Okay, thank you, Sangeeta. I think it's all clear. Okay. Now, let's move to the next one very quickly. Um, Make sure, be it your essay, be it your report, or be it the letter also, it has to be very self-explanatory in the explanation. Think of it like this. You are writing something for someone, but you are not there to explain if there is any confusion. So the letters, the reports, the essays should be so articulate that they justify their own self without any external help. So make sure when you are writing the letter or the essay or the report, it should be very crystal clear. That means that there should be not, like, for example, a lot of students, they write, the parents should not let the children, because the parents should not let the children go out at night, because if they do, then they will be more free, and then they might encounter things that are not good for them. Now who is they and them? So it will be very confusing, because in your mind, yes, you are clear that they are the parents, them are the children. But if somebody is reading the essay without knowing what is going there on in your mind, of course, it's going to be extremely difficult for the person to interpret what were you trying to say. So make sure that it is very clear and self-explanatory, that even if you are not present there, even in your absence, it makes absolute sense. And when you will think like that, you will be able to write down perfectly articulate essays, reports, and letters. Make sure that the tone is correct. If it is a formal letter, you do not write, can't wait to have you here, or can't wait to see you. Again, it's a very informal way to address to someone you don't really know or barely know. And if it is an informal letter, you will not write, I am extremely elated to hear that the fact you are going to bring your esteemed presence to my house. Of course, you will just write, can't wait to see you. So depending upon the nature of the letter, you need to write accordingly. Then present and highlight all the bullet points. That does not mean that you have to underline anything, or that does not even mean that you need to write anything in bullet points. That just means that you need to answer the question sequentially without breaking the order. And the last one is appropriate format. When I say appropriate format, what I'm trying to implement is the letter should contain an introduction, the purpose, then dear, then the 3 bullet points, and then the sign off. The report should always have the introduction, the overview, the 2 body paragraphs, and the essay should always have the introduction, body 1, body 2, and conclusion. These are the appropriate formats for each kind of the task, and you need to very well maintain them, because without without maintaining, you are going to face some kind of reductions in your band scores. So this was all about the writing task 1 of both the letter and the essay. If you have any questions or any doubts, you can ask me now. Anything that you did not understand, anything that you would want to ask, any doubts, any feedbacks, you can definitely tell me. I'm open to constructive criticism. Okay? If everything is clear, then we can call it a day, and I will see you in the next live then. Okay, I expect that everything is as clear as the day and you do not have any questions to ask. ठीक है. So now, before I quickly let you all leave, one thing that I want to tell you is, if you have any questions or any doubts as per any particular module, you can always register for a free demo with us. In that demo, you can ask all your doubts. It's going to be a free demo, of course. You do not have to pay any penny from your pocket. And if you are confused about any particular module, you can ask us and we are going to be more than happy to help you. And also the live transpires every single day, but from Monday till Friday, Saturday and Sunday, we do not have any live. So make sure that you know that. And if you want to know about our batch classes, you can definitely drop a message and the team is going to get in contact with you. And we are here with you in your journey. And if you have any questions related to IELTS, you can always ask me. All right, having said that, now I am going to take your leave. Thank you so much for joining the live. Bye. Bye, everyone.